welcome to the Homegirl Podcast. I am your host, Abby Cornelius. This is episode 15. We are still in our leadership series, and we are going to talk about one of my favorite parts of being a leader, which is that of being a trainer and a coach. And I have had so many leaders throughout the years come to me and ask for advice on how in the heck do I train or teach my team. And I had experience as a trainer, so that's why they would come to me and ask my advice. And it's super, super simple, but for some reason, companies are not giving these just like really simple tips to their leaders, because you become a leader because you were good at your job. So they just assume, well, you were good at it, so you can obviously teach it to somebody else. But being a trainer or a coach is a little bit more nuanced than just word vomiting what you know and hoping that it sticks with somebody else. There's definitely more, excuse me, a little bit more that goes on behind the scenes of what it takes to make somebody actually learn and develop a new skill. So stick with me here. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to be coughing a little bit. I'm still fighting this cold, but I want to make sure I keep getting you guys some good content. So bear with me. Anyway, so trainer, coach, how do we become that when our team needs it? So in my experience, when I was a sales manager, there were three main things that were asked of me as a leader. Your company may have a different three goals, but I think this is pretty good advice for anybody that's leading a sales team. And it is that you should, one, constantly be recruiting talent, getting to know who's out there, who's a top person that you would want on your team, and building those relationships so when opportunities arise, you're building a winning team, not just hiring because you need to fill a seat. Okay. Second is community positioning, making sure that your neighborhoods are positioned well to the market, that they have what they need to be successful and shine. And third is coach and develop your team. And it's easy to get caught up in community positioning as kind of like a fire drill item, because the market's ever changing and we need to hit our goals. And so sometimes we stay in community positioning mode as our full responsibility, but you do have other responsibilities. And what we're noticing now with this shift in the market is that when the market was great, we were not filling the bucket of training and coaching our teams because we didn't necessarily have to. The sales were coming in, right? So, or the skill set that we needed for that market we had. So we weren't developing that next market skill set that we needed. And now we have kind of hair on fire, like we're not prepared for this. We aren't experienced in financial conversations. We're not experienced in creating urgency outside of, the news, personal urgency. Hey, we're not skilled at, excuse me, we're not skilled at all these mini closes because we haven't had to do that, right? People were basically saying, here's my money, I want to buy a house. So we're having to develop these new skill sets with our teams, and you are going to have this urge to go into a sales meeting and just say, do this. And you're going to just tell them what to do, and it's going to fall flat. And maybe like one person will get one thing from it, but it's not going to be the true impact that you need on your team. So if you want to execute really impactful training and coaching, whether it be in a sales meeting or one-on-one individually with your team, I want you to be mindful of the way that people learn. So adult learners learn one of three ways. They either learn audio through auditory senses, visual through like written word, text, binders. These are your salespeople who have binders for everything and they love paper. They're your visual people. Or they have like all the PDFs, right? And that's like their thing. These are your visual people. Audio are your people who will call you and be like, can you just tell me again what to do? And they may have a resource for it somewhere, but they want you to tell them what to do because that's how they learn best. And then your kinesthetic people are the people who actually like tactile and like to do it. And they're the people who might say like, hey, watch me do this and tell me what I'm doing wrong. Okay. So people learn one of those three ways, but if you really want something to be sticky, you need to do all three. So when I was a trainer, we used this learning cycle called tell, show, do, review. And what we were aiming for was hitting all three learning styles. So regardless of the new hire in front of us, we were making sure that they got what they needed to make this content sticky. So tell would be like this. I'm just going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about, what we're going to learn, maybe a little mindset behind the why behind what we're doing. And then I'm going to move into a show mode where I'm actually going to exhibit the skill, whether that be role playing or working in a computer system or manually doing some math together. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then I'm going to ask you to do it as well. All of this accompanied by a workbook for your visual people to take notes and to reference back to. Okay. And then after they do, we're going to review it. When I was a corporate trainer, we actually did tons of homework and quizzes and tests, and it was crazy. And the new hires thought it was really intense. It was a lot of work for us as trainers to grade all of this stuff. But excuse me, it really was hugely impactful because that's the feedback part. That's the review part. That's the way for me to say, yes, you've mastered this. You got this skill. It is sticky. It's stuck. And feeling like they could graduate onto the next thing. It was like that level of accountability. And I remember grown-ups being like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in college again. Why are you giving me these quizzes? And we have like 100-question test. And it felt very intense. And it was, I don't mean to belittle it because it was intense, but it created amazing skill sets that stuck and that people like knew how to do and could execute time and time again because we were so repetitious about tell, show, do, review. Tell, show, do, review. And if we reviewed it and it wasn't where it needed to be, we just start over again. And so that way the new team members really truly got what they needed to level up their skills. And this is what you need to do with your teams. But what I see from sales meetings that I've sat in, what I hear from my sales team, team members that I work with, is that most training that's being delivered today by leaders is a tell. Maybe sometimes a little bit of show, but your sales leaders are sometimes so far out of the field that they're uncomfortable being vulnerable and going out there and practicing a skill set that they're not willing to show what it looks like because they haven't done it in forever. So leaders, you need to get out of that too, right? You need to show your team, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I'm not also willing to do. And so that means you need to be willing to role play. You need to practice good questioning. You need to practice your financing. You need to know how your CRM works because you need to be able to teach and lead and level up your team. So if you're a leader today and you have a new skill set that you want your team to learn, don't just tell them what you need them to do. Show them. Provide them tactile resources, handouts, workbooks. Ask them to role play, ask them to show you back, ask them to perform. Create an environment on your team where accountability for developing skills and feedback in the progress towards skill development is commonplace, and it will not become awkward. Are your first couple times going to be awkward? Yes. But some of my best managers that got the best from me are those who had a very strong culture of, let's go, show me what it looks like. Talk me through it. What are you going to say? Let's role play it before. And it gets you into that muscle memory. And that's what a real coach does, right? Like if you're on a sports team, your coach makes you run drills, you practice things so that when it's game time, when it's time to perform, you've worked out the kinks, you've got the muscle memory. So don't forget to hold your team accountable to that holy, grail of true performance development, which is the practice part. They need to practice it. It's new, right? It's going to be clunky. And if we don't get them through the clunkiness, it's never going to set in. They're going to avoid it because people just avoid discomfort by default. So help walk them through that. And don't make it more uncomfortable for them. Don't be like, I need each of you to stand up in front of the whole room and practice this new thing that you just learned. I think maybe, excuse me, a good thing is tell, show, do. And maybe have them do it with a peer in a small group if you are rolling out in a sales meeting, and then have them practice it with you during your next one-on-one. And then if somebody was like a killer at it, maybe ask them if they're comfortable showing it in the follow-up sales meeting. That's a good way to kind of reinforce a skill along the way. So if you're a leader today who needs to teach skills, don't forget, hit auditory, visual, and actual, the act of doing it. Do not be afraid to hold your team accountable to practice. Practice makes progress. My little 8-year-old knows that. She says it at least once a week. I'm practicing my dance because practice makes progress, mommy. And I'm like, yeah, girl, get it. Do those little shuffle hop steps, whatever you need to do. But the same applies for your team. If they are learning something new, they need to practice it. So tell, show, do, review. Tell, show, do, review. You've got this. Do not just say, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a coach, it's not my jam. you can learn it, right? Show your team that you can learn new things just like you're asking them to learn new things too. All right, bye for now. I hope you all have a wonderful week. I am here cheering you on always.